Oi, oi, alright, how's it going? I'm Grant, you're you, this is DoodleReview. Day to day, we review albums from all sorts of genre, but today is Saturday, so it's a special episode. We're going to do a deep dive on what I like to call the hidden Queens of the Stone Age albums. And no, this isn't a video about Desert Sessions, Eagles of Death Metal, Crooked Vultures, or post-pop depression. We're talking about other stuff, deep cut shit. Before we get into it, if this has piqued your interest, and then you'll probably want to stick around afterwards and look out some of my other videos. You know, you might fancy ranking all of the Queens of the Stone Age side projects. After that, you might want to take a little Foo Fighters album ranking, Arctic Monkeys album ranking. Maybe after that, you want to treat yourself to ranking all of the Strokes side projects. And at that point, once you've done that, stop being cute and coy, stop messing about, and just subscribe, because we've got so much more of that stuff on the way. All of those videos are linked down below. So let's get back to the matter at hand. And as I mentioned, we aren't going to talk about Desert Sessions and stuff today. We will do a deep dive on them at some point because they're all great projects. Wholeheartedly recommend them. But today is all about some of the deeper stuff that isn't as well known out there. So as you know, Queens of the Stone Age officially kicked off in earnest in 1998 with the release of their debut self-titled album, and while it was amazing, it was actually the second album, Rated R, that really pushed the band to the next level and set the stage for their later commercial success. It also opened the door to a decade of intensely prolific music creation for all members, not just Josh Homme. Between the years of 2000 and kind of 2007, in between Queen's records and Desert Sessions, the members of Queens would also play, produce and co-write on many other artists' material, and the resulting records would often have a really Queensy vibe to them that I think any fan of the band would probably get a kick out of. There are about 5 or 6 records I'm going to talk through, starting with this one, Melissa Auf der Maur's debut solo self-titled record. Hailing from Canada, Melissa Auf der Maur started her career playing bass in relatively small bands until the summer of 1994, when she was recruited to join Hole, touring and recording with the Courtney Love fronted band until 99, when she left to join Smashing Pumpkins and toured with them from 2000 into 2001. And it was around this time she began a solo career, taking centre stage as the frontwoman in her own band, Auf der Maur. The debut record landed in 2004, and the roll call of musicians featured on this album is crazy. It's like a who's who of 90s, 2000s rock. We know Auf der Maur played in both Hole and Smashing Pumpkins for a time, so it's somewhat expected that we would get some members of those bands, but we also have, you know, Geordie White, aka Twiggy from Marilyn Manson, Kelly Scott of Failure, Brant Bjork of Kyuss, and of course Josh Homme, Nick Oliveri and Mark Lanigan of Queens. Auf der Maur is a fantastic alt-rock album. It's well produced, sounds amazing and has bangers. But if you want to talk specifically hidden Queens of the Stone Age tracks, check out I'll Be Anything You Want and I Need, I Want, I Will. Homme has an official writing credit on these, and when you hear the riffs you can just tell. There are the trademark touches of polka, that modified scale he's known for using as a guitarist, and that telltale swing. I can't say enough great things about this album, but I must wholeheartedly state, although I get particularly excited about the Stone Age of it all, it's what led me to the record ultimately, but Melissa Auf der Maur is undoubtedly the overriding force. Her voice, her lyrics, charisma, just amazing. Okay, so the eagle-eyed among you might have seen Chris Goss listed as the musicians there. He actually produced the Auf der Maur album, and for those that don't know Goss, he's a very important figure in the Queen's mythology. He actually discovered Kyuss, Josh Homme and Nick Oliveri's what became legendary desert rock band before Queens of the Stone Age. He discovered Kyuss when those members, Homme, Oliveri, Brant Bjork and John Garcia, were like 17 or 18. I think they were recording or just finished their album Wretch, and he went on to subsequently produce the next 4 Kyuss albums, and later on Queens' Rated R and Era Vulgaris albums. And I'm mentioning this because Goss is the ringleader of the next band, which is Masters of Reality. Masters have an eclectic discography with 6 albums in total, but we're focusing on their 4th record, Deep in the Hole, released in 2001, which is a must listen for any fans of Queens of the Stone Age. With Goss having produced so many Kyuss records and of course producing Rated R around 1999-2000, the producer and songwriter in his own right developed a close mentor-like relationship with Josh Homme and Nick Oliveri, and when it came time to record the new Masters album in late 2000, he would call both the guitarist and bassist to assist in the recording. Now, full liner notes weren't included on the album, but based on documentary footage and just the sound of this record, I'm pretty sure Homme and Oliveri feature on every song here, and Homme actually gets a co-writing credit on the song Roof of the Shed. Additional Queen's alumni like Mark Lanigan, Brendan McNichol, Nick Lucero, Dave Catching and Troy Van Leeuwen are all featured on the album as well. I think it's actually a bit of a classic, and it's a crime it didn't really get the recognition in the mainstream rock press that it deserved. My main recommendation would be, of course, listening to the whole thing, but if you want a sample, I'd say High Noon Amsterdam and Third Man on the Moon are good tracks to like wet your beak on. Once you've got into that, you then should check out the subsequent live album Flak and Flight, because in addition to recording on Deep in the Hole, Homme and Oliveri would actually join the touring lineup of the Masters for the promotional tour of this album. They wisely saw fit to immortalise this brief period of time on an album, and it's well worth it. And if you really want to nerd out, you can search the documentary Against the Grain on YouTube, which details the making of Deep in the Hole as well and features lots of Queen's members. Chris Goss leads us on to our next hidden gem. The year was 2006, and James Lavelle, the London-based mastermind of Project UNKLE, took a pilgrimage to the Rancho de la Luna studio in the California desert, specifically to work with Chris Goss. And this led to War Stories, an album that fuses the desert rock sound with the elements of trip hop and electronica that UNKLE had built their reputation on. And once again, we get a killer feature list. Queen's fam like Homme, Troy Van Leeuwen and Dave Catchin are included, but also in the mix are BOC from Eagles of Death Metal, 3D from Massive Attack, Ian Astbury from The Cult, as well as bands like Autolux and the Duke Spirit. Again, check out the whole album, but two notable and most Queens related songs would be the Homme song Restless and then Chemistry. Chemistry you might find familiar because the instrumental track found its way to the soundtrack of so much stuff on TV and in movies at the time. The song also revealed itself to be a bit of a holy grail for Queen's fans, because some years later, after a leak of some demos, it came to light that Chemistry was an evolved version of a song called Oppenheimer's Brother, and that was one of the earliest and most sought after known Queens of the Stone Age demos, and it ended up turning up here like 10 or more years later on War Stories. Next, we're going to talk about one that's a little more obvious possibly, and that's Nick Oliveri's second Mondo Generator album, A Drug Problem That Never Existed. Yeah. Again, this is a band that has had a revolving lineup over the years, but at this time it featured Molly Maguire and Dave Catching on guitar and Brant Bjork of Kyuss on drums. In addition, there are lots of guest features and co-writes from Homme, with the key track being the frantic Fuck You I'm Free. Also featured are Blood Dahlia of the Dwarves, a band which Oliveri has been on again off again member of for about 30 years, and surprise surprise, Josh Freese is on it as well. Worth checking out. Our last album is going to come from the sorely missed Mark Lanigan. Lanigan, of course, was pretty much a full Queens of the Stone Age member between 2001 and 2005, and guested on albums either side of that as well, lending his gravelly vocals to classics in the band's catalogue like In the Fade, Song for the Dead and Hanging Tree. Lanigan's involvement in the Queen's universe spawned from the fact that in the small gap between the demise of Kyuss and the start of Queens of the Stone Age, Josh Homme actually joined Lanigan's band, the psychedelic grunge-act Screaming Trees, as a touring guitarist for, I think, what would become their final few tours. A friendship was formed here, and actually Homme initially earmarked Lanigan as the full-time lead vocalist for his new project, which would obviously be Queens, but those plans were eventually scaled back, and he was then only due to sing on the song Walking on the Sidewalks from that first album, but sadly that didn't even come off either. But it's why, if you search live Queens performances from around 2002, you'll see Lanigan actually takes vocals on that particular track when they play it, because that was the original plan. Lanigan has a massive solo catalogue, and I'd recommend it all, but if you're a Queens fan and you don't know already, you need to jump on the album Bubblegum. Released in 2004, the album features probably one of the biggest feature lists we've covered. Almost everyone that had been in Queens at the time is on there. On top of that, you also have Greg Dooley of Afghan Wigs, PJ Harvey, Alan and Natasha from 11, and of course they would later join Queens, as well as a mini Guns N' Roses reunion with both Izzy Stradlin and Duff McKagan making appearances. They're the coolest members of Guns N' Roses, by the way. I know I keep saying this, but the album is an absolute classic. You definitely want to check it out. But again, if you're looking for a few cuts just to kind of start with, I would check out the tracks Sideways in Reverse, Methamphetamine Blues, and maybe the song Head, but honestly it's all good. Before we close out, we actually can't forget the EP that preceded that release, and it is Here Comes That Weird Chill. Recorded in sessions from around the time, is notable for a few reasons. The first is amazing, duh. The second is that it features a song called Skeletal History that I genuinely consider a Lost Queens track because it's a co-write between Homme, Oliveri and Lanigan. It is one of the darkest tracks in any of those artists' catalogues. Think Song for the Deaf, but weirder. There's actually a few unreleased tracks from these sessions that are worth hunting down if you can. Another track called Josephine, I recall, is great, and another one called Never Come Down, and that is notable because that song would actually find its way years later onto the Them Crooked Vultures album as the climax to the song Spinning in Daffodils. Okay, so there you have it. That's like 6 albums that if you're a die-hard Queens of the Stone Age fan, you've got to get to know. They are of course very much their own things, but there's just so much cross-pollination here between the artists that if you're looking to scratch that fix for, you know, riffy, swing-laden rock and are tapped out on the 8 official Stone Age records, give these ones a go. Let me know what you think of these albums in the comments. Tell me if you've heard of them before. Hopefully you've been turned on to something new. Let me know if I've missed out any projects. I will definitely be covering bands like Kaya, Sequels of Death Metal and Desert Sessions in later videos, so you know, keep an eye out for those. Day to day we do reviews, and at weekends we've got Saturday specials like this and Sunday Jazz Club, so if you're into it, give us a subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Cheers mate, bye.